And welcome to this episode of Tales from the Bargain Bin. I am Bill Tucker, and tonight, once again, he's been such a great guest. We keep having him back because he's a great guest, and he's my brother, and he says yes when I ask him to show up, which is fantastic. Mr. Bobby Tucker, what's going on, man?
I didn't know no was an option.
I mean, it's always an option. It's
I
not a
had more
great
courage. Thank you for having me this evening.
Yeah, man, no worries. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the THQ game James Bond Jr. for the Super Nintendo, released in 1992. Early in the SNES life cycle there, developed by Gray Matter Incorporated. We will probably mine those two companies. Everyone knows THQ. Gray Matter, I think I've heard of. But no matter, Bobby, do you remember how we received this game?
I think it was my fault. I don't remember if I wanted it or not. But I would watch the cartoon from time to time. It would be on it was probably around the same time as maybe Captain Planet and Carmen Sandiego. I watched a lot of Carmen Sandiego. So I was, it was a little part of that block of network television, Cartoon Network TV. Mm-hmm. And I either I think I might have saw it in Nintendo Power and maybe asked for it. I think it might have been my fault. And I distinctly remember I think you wanted to talk me out of it. Because Nintendo Power is notoriously for bad games giving an okay review. They didn't give a good review for this. I remember the review being kind of I forgot the rating system, but it wasn't a big write-up either. It was just a block. When they have the one page, it's several squares. It was one of those really small paragraphs. Yeah. And whatever. Probably don't. That was kind of what the review was, I think. But I think this was my fault.
So you're to blame for this game to appear.
I think so.
It happens. I tried to play a decent amount today. I actually played 40 minutes of this game.
Yeah, you got
today. Far. No, I didn't get far at all. It's a very annoying game. Based, of course, as you said, off of the cartoon of the same name.
Yeah.
I actually did a little prep for this, and I watched some of the pilot episode of James Bond Jr.
Oh, wow.
I did my due diligence, sir. I watched 15 minutes of a extremely average 90s cartoon, and then played 45 minutes of its slightly below average SNES counterpart.
Yeah, it wasn't a great property. It was through and through it was, whatever.
I was doing a little research. It lasted a year. That's 64 episodes, the show. Yeah. But it lasted a year and it was canceled. So they got 64 episodes out of it,
64 episodes, that probably means 15 minutes an episode, my guess. I'm not sure if it was 2 episodes for 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they count as an episode. Yeah, that's a good point.
My guess, and that's so it's 32 full episodes. That's about a season. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Wow, 1 year. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I barely remembered playing this game. I kind of forgot about it until you brought it up. And I barely remember the cartoon. It wasn't a cherished cartoon of my childhood or anything like that. It was just a small blip on the radar. But I did go through a James Bond phase later. I started watching the old movies, and I would rent the VHS tapes. And so I always did like James Bond, but James Bond Jr. for kids, it didn't really catch.
It's kind of a weird thing because I don't think kids are into James Bond to begin with. It's more of an adult property, and James Bond Jr. doesn't really. The animation is terrible.
Yeah.
It's really terrible animation. It has a lot of bad Transformers style, laser blast and kind of that almost that anime style, the early anime kind of thing going on. and the voice acting is beyond. Everyone's trying to do fake British accents.
Oh no.
It's oh boy.
That was my next. Was it? Did they try to make it British? Because it doesn't feel British in the cartoon. It feels American. But you do your headquarters is like near England somewhere. So,
yes.
Yeah, it's weird. But when I watched YouTube like playthroughs, of this game, it all flooded back to me. I forgot that how much I did actually play this game.
Oh, I finished it. I know I finished it.
I finished it too, and once I just started seeing that helicopter, it all came back to me. I was like, oh, that's right. I remember this game.
Yeah. It's the game is broken up into 3 enemies and 3 bosses, and there's surprisingly little information on this game out there. So I'm now going to go off of recollection from what I played and kind of the YouTube video I scanned earlier today.
Okay.
So essentially, it's I think 3 enemies from the game. There's Dr. Deranged, some dude with a giant head who's supposed to be super duper smart,
Italian.
Yeah, I don't think he was Italian. He was just in Venice.
You just go to Venice. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, he was in Venice. And then the final, I guess he's the big boss, whoever he is, in Antarctica at their base. The gameplay is essentially, first it's like side-scrolling. The funny thing about this game, it starts off with this little cutscene cinematic where you talk to your friends at the academy, at Warfield Academy, is where this all takes place. Q gives you, or this game's version of Q gives you your gadgets, which is pretty neat. You then start playing as James Bond Jr. You jump 2 ledges, Dr. Derange runs away, and that's it. That's it. It doesn't, it's the most senseless beginning of a game. It's literally a 15-second open, and then you're treated to baby's first shmup, which is essentially like just, baby's first, R-type. Straightforward shooter. You have a little, your plane can shoot forward and then drop bombs. These levels take forever and ever.
Endless. Endless. And that's when it came back to me. I remember how long these levels are. Very repetitive, very long. And what makes it even worse is that the SNES is capable of way better music. The music in this game, it's a 5-second loop, but it's a really bad 5-second loop.
It's not great.
It's dun 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 dun. Like,
I'll throw it in. I'm gonna throw it in right now. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed. I hope.
And this is why the mute button was invented, and this is why you pop in Metallica or whatever you've got sitting around. It's 91, so maybe Soundgarden, and you just do not listen to this game. You don't have to. There's no reason to.
No.
The enemies don't make noises when they come up on you. You see them. You can see the snakes. You can see everything.
There's no audio cues. There's nothing.
In this first level, you're in a helicopter, and a helicopter with infinite bombs. I don't know where these bombs come from in this tiny little helicopter. Helicopters don't even usually have bombs. If they did, they had 2, but this one has thousands.
And there's no cooldown on them. You can just drop bombs indiscriminately.
It just manifests bombs. It's very silly. And then you can shoot forward too, but mostly you're using your bombs. And there was one little clever touch that there are parachuters, or probably using the wrong word, soldiers on parachutes who land, and then they can jump into other tanks or like jump off things. That's a kind of neat little enemy, but it's not enough. It's so repetitive and it's so dull. And this game is a testament to how important level design is. It's not enough just to have repetitive music and just like lots of ledges and stuff. There's a design to levels to keep you interested, and this game does not do any of it. It's just so repetitive.
Because it's a great thing when we talk about level design. When a game forces you to get to the top of the screen in your helicopter and you can't go down because there's a tree line, and then it just brings an enemy fighter at you and shoots you and gives you no opportunity to dodge because you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's just great.
Great. Thank you.
They thought through all this really well.
And then you get to this one section where if you don't have the spread shot, because you get upgrades as you kind of move along, there's a spread shot where every bullet explodes into fragments, which is really useful and helpful. But if you get to the final area, which is a cave that you have to navigate tight sections with these balloon bombs hanging out everywhere, if you don't have that, you're doomed. There's no way. I mean, I'm sure people can. I sure didn't, and that's when I turned the game off and said, "YouTube, my only friend right now. I'm a grown-ass man. I do not need to sit here and play James Bond Jr. I love my listeners and all, but boy, oh boy."
Yeah. It kills your patience. So you didn't get past the helicopter then? You didn't make it to the tombs then. Okay.
And I even put in Game Genie codes because I did get to the tombs because I put in a Game Genie code that started me out that skipped the helicopter level. So I started in the tombs and there you just treat it to very average platforming and jumping and hand-to-hand combat.
And I repeat, repetitive.
It just never stops.
Endless. It just keeps going. It's so boring. But it is. There are monkeys in Windows that do throw things at you, and it is fun to punch one because they go and they fall backwards. I remember enjoying that as a kid.
Yes.
Or you can throw a bomb at them.
Yeah.
It's very a little
jump
excessive.
kick him or throw a bomb at him. That's pretty good. The bosses all comprise of essentially finding the right place to stand and throw bombs. Just stay. It's literally you find the right place to stand and then just throw your bombs. If you've collected enough, you can just take them out with no issue.
Yeah.
Then the second level takes place in Venice.
Right.
This was always my favorite, and I always played this game.
The boat was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. The boat's actually great because you can break the game really easily with the boat. So the idea of the boat is that you're traveling along a waterway and you have, of course, henchmen are trying to bump you, although when they hit you, nothing happens. They just bounce off and crash. You have a gun on there, of course, and you have these little ramps where you can jump over ledges and things like that. And you get this little like wing for the back of your boat that allows you to go farther. And then there's like a nitrous that really lets you just fly across the screen. Well, what people don't realize is if a boat hits you from behind, you gain speed. So at the very beginning, when these enemy boats are behind you, if you let them bump you, you can start flying through these levels. Now, the faster you go, of course, the more likely you are to crash into things. But once you hit a jump with the wing on going super fast, you're going to fly halfway across the level. You actually outpace the screen. You literally can outpace the screen. It's really fun to do. I was not able to do it this time, but I got pretty close where I literally cleared like 3 jumps worth of jump thanks to the speed I was going at. And again, you can literally outpace the screen and cause the game to just panic. I don't think it bugs out, but I think it stops, you explode or something. But that's probably the best part of this game is the boat, I would think.
Yeah, I remember the boat being fun. And then if these levels weren't repetitive enough and if this game wasn't short enough, the second level, which is, as I've mentioned in other episodes, is a sewer level. And I hate sewer levels, and this game makes it even worse. It's also just as repetitive as the tombs. And who are we kidding? Tombs are also like sewers, but they're above ground.
It's literally the same freaking thing. It's literally
terrible. And it's just as repetitive. And instead of snakes, there's eels. And it's enough. It's just enough. I don't want to get to the mad scientists in Venice anymore. Why are we in the sewers of Venice? It doesn't make any sense.
Because evidently the guy with the big brain has found Leonardo da Vinci made a weapon. Well, he made an invention that he wants to turn into a weapon. And it turns out to be a nuclear sub, which means this implies, y'all. Let's think about this for a second. Leonardo da Vinci. I don't know history, but he wasn't around now. Leonardo da Vinci invented a nuclear submarine. He had the ability to do nuclear fission in his day. And I don't know history. I don't know when that was. You can yell at me at your screens or at your car as you listen to this. But man alive, not great. And then the final vehicular level is you pilot a jet, which is the same thing as the freaking helicopter. It's just a different sprite on the helicopter.
Yep.
And you have a gun, as you did before. I don't think you might have bombs. I don't remember.
I think you do as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Great. And then your power up is a spread shot. So you just have one shot. You have three.
Which helps. Yeah.
Which does help, of course.
Yeah.
But that's also like baby's first shmup because, again, the enemies come at you like you were playing an R-Type or a Gradius. It's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and you're in Antarctica, if I'm not mistaken.
You are in Antarctica.
And then you're in the ice stage, which is underground, but slippery.
It's the slippery caves of Antarctica.
So now, if you weren't bored with the last two levels, now you're in a third level that's very similar, but you slide around.
Yes, you have less mobility. Great.
You control like you're on butter, and yeah, I that's basically what I remember of that. And eventually get to that bad guy who's in a coat, and he has a giant ball that he tries to kill you with.
Yes. Yeah. You just have to roll under the ball.
Yes.
And you can actually throw a bomb at it, or you can just kick it.
Really?
You can just kick it. Yeah. Because the playthrough I watched, the person ran out of bombs or grenades, so he just started kicking it every time and it served its purpose. And then at the very end, he comes down and tries to stalk you, but you can easily take him out with a few tranq darts, and that's your game. And of course, James Bond Jr. always has something quippy to say at the end of every win. He always something clever to say, James, as his uncle did. In the show, his uncle is James Bond.
Oh, okay.
I think. Yeah, that's why I gleaned from the pilot.
He's the actual James Bond's nephew.
Yes, that's correct.
Why is he James Bond Jr.? I guess it's maybe it's just a family tradition.
It's good. I can't. I hope. Did I get that wrong? Oh, no one cares. It's fine. He is related to James Bond. I believe he did say his uncle, not his father. So
maybe his mom married into it somehow. He just calls himself James Bond Jr.
Yeah, you're exactly.
Wish that redhead didn't call himself that. It's ruining the family name. Yeah.
So the show it's based on, pretty terrible. It's not great. I watched a few. Actually, no, I watched a half of an episode. The pilot gave me enough to go on. Half of the cast does really bad English accents, and the other half does not.
They don't even try.
They don't even try. They just didn't even give it a shot. It's like the opening 3 minutes were cool because it was a car chase.
Oh, nice.
In which James Bond Jr. is evading henchmen. He's got the shield that comes in the back that blocks the bullets, and he gets pushed off a cliff in his car. Then he engages the flight mode, and then he flies to Warwick Academy where he is now studying. Yeah, I don't know. It's not the kind of. So you said you watched this back in the day.
I don't know if I was a fan of it, but it played either around the same time as Captain Planet or after Carmen Sandiego. So it's just a matter of what was on after things I was watching kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And I remember kind of liking it, but I don't. Yeah, it didn't hold a special place in my heart or anything like that.
Gotcha. It was kind of one of those that was on between things you liked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fair.
The channel's still on, and this was on was after something I did like.
Sure. And usually somebody's shooting at something and a thing's blowing up. So that's fine. What else have I got to do? What else am I allowed to do, I should say? One thing, I am on Moby Games reviewing James Bond Jr. Again, trying to mine for any information I have to fill out the final 15 minutes of this episode. So, this game was developed by Gray Matter Incorporated, published by THQ. Everyone knows THQ. They did a bunch of games in the SNES era. But Gray Matter was a little less known. They did Crow City of Angels, which I believe, if that's the right one, that's the Sega Saturn one, which is universally known as horrendous.
Oh,
like this is one of those, one of the worst games ever made type of thing. But this is a well-known terrible game, Crow City of Angels. So apologies for that gray matter. They also did the NHL All-Star Hockey in '95. That is not NHL 94 though, that we all know and love. That's NHL All-Star Hockey for the Saturn and for the Game Gear.
Oh,
so they got those ports. Unfortunately, WWF King of the Ring, Wayne's World. Okay, that's another one that's a beloved game. Here's another one that they did that I think is a game that's from a cartoon that is of the same ilk in quality, but was probably a little more famous. They did Captain Planet and the Planeteers.
Yeah.
Captain Planet. Captain Planet was another one of those that was definitely, it was on between things. You just watched it because what else are you going to do?
I definitely
Changing the channels a pain in the neck.
I definitely liked it better for whatever reason. I thought the premise of the rings and each person had their own power there was something to it that was a little more interesting. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's interesting. Did we have an actual Captain Planet like ship? I seem to think we had action figures and a spaceship.
I think we had a Captain Planet figure. Yeah, and
I seem to think a spaceship. Well, maybe not that.
But I remember that you having an action figure. Yeah, for sure. Now, do you also? But also, there were two developers. There was Gray Matter, you said, and then there's another company called Eurocom. Did you see that as well?
I did not see that.
They're the English developer, so they may have been like, because James Bond's a British property, so maybe they worked in conjunction with this other company. I'm not quite sure. Eurocom has a very weird development history as well, because they one of their first games was James Bond Jr., but then they went on to do like the Lethal Weapon for NES and Game Boy.
Okay.
Which is not bad. And then, a bunch of games I have not recognized until I see Earthworm Jim, but for Game Boy and Game Gear. So they did the portable version.
I don't know I don't know if I've ever played those portable versions.
No, I've only played the SNES. Yeah. Weirdly enough, Duke Nukem 64, which is a weird one. And then a couple N64 titles. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting where they would go on to like 2010s. They did GoldenEye 07 for the Wii.
Wow. Okay, I don't think that was very well received.
I don't think so.
No.
They did a bunch of Ice Age games from the movie Ice Age. That's adorable.
Oh, adorbs. How are we getting more material out of Barbie than we are out of James Bond Jr.? How is that even possible, Bobby?
James Bond Jr. is such a boring game.
It is really so boring and bland. I am actually stealing a bit now from a podcast I really like. When they do stuff like this, they go to GameFAQs and they look up GameFAQs user reviews, because there is usually some GameFAQs gold in there, just either bad writing or writing that was of its time or bad headlines. It's a good opportunity to have a laugh. And there's only 2 reviews. There's 2 reviews of James Bond Jr. On GameFAQs. That's the place where people
site I'm
write
at.
games.
Yeah, I was reading those.
Live and Let Dive is the headline for the first, by Dandy Quackshot
from 2014.
It's 2014. He got a wild hair and decided to just do a and then M Fields 1978 did a quickie.
Yeah.
And they all really rated it 5. I guess that's 5 out of 10.
I think so. I'm not sure. And that one was in 2019, so...
Well, M Fields 1978 disagrees with you, Bobby, in his closing argument.
What's that?
He said that it's sad because this could have been a great game if the programmers actually put some effort into it. Mm-hmm. Then again, what can you expect from THQ? THQ didn't develop it, sir.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they were notorious for horrible games, especially their licensed ones. I say the music is at least passable.
No,
It's not.
No.
It's not passable.
How do I report this man?
Would you recommend this review?
No.
Yes or no?
Got your own opinion? Yes. This man's wrong. Do not sell this man a keyboard ever again.
No, this person should be banned from stricken. What else has he done? M-Fields 1978. I can't tell what else these other developers have done. There's nothing I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, he's still going.
He's got badges.
This guy's still. Oh, he's got badges. Wow, he has faithful badge just one day ago. Very nice. How do I look at your contributions? Reader reviews. First Bowling Arcade. Oh, I don't know what this all is.
All right.
Oh, this is the game's Simpsons Bowling.
Oh, sure.
Rampage.
Yeah, well, Rampage, yeah.
Athena, worst of all time. What is Athena?
Rampage wasn't good either.
Rampage is fun in the arcade.
Oh yeah, it was fun. Yeah, you're right. I always just lost. I would always lose really early on. I don't know. I never got very far in the arcade game.
Unbelievable! Wow, this guy's still going on. He just did his 705th review, I think. What? Never mind. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So he reviewed this game called Athena. So he says it's the worst of all time.
A lot of the bad guys in James Bond Jr. Bill work for the organization called Scum.
Yes, I saw that.
Do you know what Scum stands for?
I don't, but I have a funny feeling I'm about to find out.
Well, it's for saboteurs and criminals united in mayhem.
Wait a second now. Hold on. Hold the phone. Yeah. You built your criminal empire off the term saboteurs. Mm-hmm. The writers of this show do not know what the term saboteurs mean. That is clearly evident in the naming. I actually forgot everything you said after saboteurs.
Saboteurs and criminals united in mayhem.
Okay, in mayhem. Well, mayhem always sounds to me like good-natured stuff. Like, oh, this involved a little bit of mayhem. You know, it's the kind of thing you do as a kid on a Friday night. You're like, oh, let's throw some eggs at a house. Just good-natured tomfoolery, mayhem. They're really up to no good. But the thing with these kind of criminal organizations, there's never any real end game. They're just doing things bad for the sake of being bad, like in this game. They're just doing bad things. Hey, we found a sub that's a nuclear submarine that Da Vinci made. Let's steal that thing. It's
I just like one of his rough drafts was a nuclear submarine. That's kind of funny. And it was made of wood, and it had a lot of gears and whirly dourlies, and it was a mess. But it was the beginning, and then whoever eventually invented the nuclear submarine would go on and do that.
I mean, I don't know. Dr. Demento, whoever was riding that thing was pretty operational. He's firing missiles at our good friend James Bond Jr. And we gotta throw bombs at it from below. So yeah, I mean, evidently it was a thing. It's a very funny concept, the idea of Da Vinci splitting atoms. Huh. I wonder what life is made of. What if we split these things? I'm talking as if I know what nuclear fission is. I don't. Come on now. I'm just a podcaster. Well, please don't hurt me.
The idea for a nuclear submarine was first proposed in the United States Navy by physicist Ross Gunn in 1939. So not exactly Da Vinci's time.
Not quite Da Vinci. Did you read that, or is that something you just knew?
I read it.
Okay. Yeah,
I looked it
you
up.
could have fooled me because you really did present that very naturally. Like, I know all the facts about.
Buddy, let me tell you about Ross Gunn from Cleveland, Ohio.
Let me start at paragraph 2. Personal life.
I do know what the Manhattan Project is. That's a fascinating piece of history.
We graduated school. We have degrees and things. I'm sure we.
Well, I don't know if this will make the final cut. To the listeners, Bill and I grew up near Newark, New Jersey, and there was an old Westinghouse factory that would make light bulbs. It was defunct in our time, but it was an old Edison. Is Westinghouse the right company? Hold on, let me make sure. Yeah,
I think it was Westinghouse.
Yeah, there was an old factory on Hoffman Boulevard named. It was an old Westinghouse factory from the Edison light bulb days, and but it was abandoned, and eventually, I guess, but in its time, it was also a location of one of the many locations of the Manhattan Project. So a piece of the hydrogen bomb was made where you and I grew up.
Yes, and across the street from it is a supermarket.
It is a dollar store now, but
It's a dollar store now, but when we were growing up, it was a supermarket.
yes, yeah,
Across the street from a
it was a food town.
Yes, yeah, it was a food town. You're right. Oh, jeez.
And then it became an Edwards, which no one remembers.
Yes.
But yeah,
I do. I remember Edwards. Are you kidding me? A place where no one went to buy groceries, clearly. And now it is a dollar store and has been for probably 15 years.
Yes.
Did they eventually demolish that place? Or is it still sitting
there's
a rotting...
no. There's massive amounts of condos there now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. They built up. Well, hopefully their pets aren't glowing. If they... I'm sure they figured out the radiation. I'm sure it wasn't that big a deal. Who knows? They probably built a...
I don't know if this is the place for this podcast, but I'm going to tell you the answer is no to that question. I don't know how they got around that after all these years of not... It couldn't build on that for years because there were hot spots, as they call them.
That's right.
And no one wanted to pay to remove these nuclear waste hot spots. There's condos there now. So,
well, if you ever want to see, if too bad. But before that, if you ever want to, shoot a scene of fallout there, you could actually have an actual place that's radioactive.
Absolutely.
That's in disarray and shambles. That building was in shambles. Like it was half falling apart, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then they knocked it down because it was dangerous. But then it was a very open plot of land that just sat there for decades. But anyway, that's the Manhattan Project, loosely based on James Bond Jr.
Yeah, we bring it back full circle. And I just have to say, whew, we made it. All right, we made it. We made our half hour. Excellent. Bobby, real quick, before we finish up, I know your answer to this. Is this coming home? Taking a nice place on your shelf, or you're throwing it back in the bin?
Back in the bin. Back in the ocean from where it came. Yep. Back into it. It should be in a nuclear submarine.
Just drop it in the old Westinghouse building and let it just feather away. I'm in the same boat. This is no, of course not. This is I put in game. I actually figured out how to set up Game Genie codes on my emulators just to give this a shot. And at the end in the boat level, when I went back in time and it restarted me someplace, I'm like, forget it. That's it. Not even Game Genie codes could spur me to get through this game. Again, monotonous, boring, uninspired, off of a monotonous, boring, and uninspired cartoon. So I guess source material tracks with the game. All right. Thank you very much for listening to this show. If you appreciate and enjoy and like it, then like it on social media. First and foremost on Twitter at @gamerlooks4040. There you'll find a little link tree in my bio. Click that and check out all the places you can listen to the show and engage on social media and my Patreon. $2 thin bucks gets you early access to shows, a private RSS feed, monthly polls when I can remember to do so, and other such goodies and fun things. Thanks again for checking out the show, and thanks for being awesome.